So, we will come back. So, with the last lecture we have discussed that why we want to do organic synthesis, and as I said it is one of the core discipline of chemistry, and you want to make organic molecules in a sufficient quantities in a cost effective or economical viable manner, so that this molecule can directly benefit to human society. Now, as I said, we will try to focus our ways, that what are the viable ways to make organic molecules in a cost effective or efficient way. The organic synthesis, as I said this slide, you can see we have been classified into 2 points or 2 subsection. So, this is the central area, it have been classified in 2 areas where total synthesis comes and methodology comes. Now, this total synthesis and methodology are closely interlinked. You will be using what are methodologies? These are basically single step transformations like a Wittig reaction, like a Swan oxidation, like a PCC oxidation. So, this is the single step methodology, and you will be using those methodologies to make a target molecule. Let us see a simple viable things. I said you have to make a molecule, and this is the target molecule, target, and this is your starting material. Okay. So, this is your target, means this is your total synthesis target, and this is your starting material. Now, if you can correlate, basically what are the reactions you need? You will be using a Wittig reaction first to convert this compound to this cyclohexene, and this you are doing a hydroboration reaction to get this target molecule. Now, this Wittig reaction is a transformation, it is basically a methodology, a single step transformation, but very useful methodology. Hydroboration is a methodology. So, these things are methodology, and by using this methodology you are getting a target molecule. So, this is your interlinking between the methodologies and the total synthesis. That is why these 2 terms are basically interlinked. Finally, as I said earlier, total synthesis of target molecules, the target molecules can be anything, as I said. This could be natural product, you can take the help of structural determinations, there could be life saving drugs or pharmaceuticals, there are industrially important compounds like pesticides, herbicides, and they are biological relevant. Definitely all the target molecules should have biological significance, simply for making a academic pursuit, that if the compound does not have a biological importance, probably our effort is not that much counted. Now, when you talk about methodology, in this case our prime concern will be these factors: number of steps, how many number of steps is required, yields for individual steps. If the methodology is very high yielding, then your effort is counted, and the point is control. If the methodology can control the reactivity or selectivity, let us say, as I said, this terminology control, the final point control or selectivity. Now, when you talk about selectivity, it basically implies everything. It implies chemoselectivity, it implies regioselectivity, it implies stereoselectivity. So, all these terminologies, all these points need to be clearly addressed in your synthetic design or synthetic pathway, then your entire pathway will be quite viable. And as the overall pathway is efficient, effective, your cost will be definitely come down. Now, cost is one of the factor where industrial people or pharma sector, pharma industry people will be much more interested. But anyway, we will be trying to figure it out all those subtle points in our effective synthetic pathway design. So, our as I said, our main focus is a guide to retrosynthetic analysis. Now, what are retrosynthesis? As I said earlier, retrosynthesis is basically the way of thinking back. Retrosynthesis is the term retro. Retro is nothing, it basically give you a backward approach. So, you have a target molecule, the target could be anything, you devise a pathway which will basically give you two different intermediate which are basically chemical components, and you devise that suitable transformations or TF is called transformations, which will be explained in the terms of glossary and other things. And this intermediates A and B undergoing a suitable transformation will give you target. Now, this the backward approach is called as retrosynthesis. It is basically a programmed approach, it is a logically driven approach. Just by seeing the structure, you can think about what are the suitable retrosynthetic pathways. So, we will be coming to those things little bit later on. Now, let us go back to Professor E. J. Kore's standard definition, what Professor E. J. Kore says about retrosynthetic analysis. Retrosynthesis, as I said, retrosynthetic analysis, sometimes it referred as antithetic analysis, is a problem solving technique, for transforming the structure of a synthetic target, a given molecule, to a sequence of progressively simpler structures. So, as I said, a complex structure has been fragmented into simplified structures, and then it lead to a commercially available starting materials, because you have to start from a building block starting materials. So, a complex molecules can be simplified to a commercially available starting material, so that you can start using those starting materials for a given pathways. The transformation of a molecule to a synthetic precursor is accomplished by the application of a transform. As I said, transform is basically a sequence of reaction. Now, as we used a reverse arrow, this arrow is often termed as retrosynthetic arrow, retro arrows you can call it, is just opposite to the forward arrow. When you do a forward reaction, you put a starting material A, you put a arrow, you put some reagent, let us say you are doing a oxidation reaction, you get B, this is a forward arrow. If you do this arrow, is called retro arrow, which was done in a piece of paper or you can even do it in a computer. So, this repetition of this whole process eventually lead to a tree of intermediates. I will explain it again. So, we have a target molecule, okay, and you do a retrosynthesis arrow, which is called backward arrow. You come to a intermediate A plus B. Now, this A might be a complex molecule, it is not commercially available. So, devise a retrosynthesis for A first, and that basically will give you another intermediate C plus D. This B, it also may not be commercially available. Then you come back here E plus F. Now, you find that might be D is commercially available. You say this material is known material. Okay. Then C may not be commercially available. You again come back and devise another retro pathway. For here also same thing might be applicable, depending on the source of the materials. Now, this entire pathway, or you can call it as a branching pathway, starting from a target molecule, this branching pathway, it is called a retrosynthesis tree. It is a retro tree having many branches, and this is a retro branching. Now, what is this backward arrow means? Where basically you are doing some transformation, TAP is abbreviated as transformation. Any single transformations, let us say for oxidation reaction, reduction reaction, is named as transformation reaction. Okay. and then you come back to these things. Finally, you come that D is a commercially available starting material, even G can be a commercially available. So, now you start forward, you start with G and D, mix them together by a chemical reaction, you get A. Similarly, you mix E plus A, you get B, then you couple A plus B with a suitable transformation, you come to a target molecule. This is exactly what we do in the retrosynthetic analysis. So, what we are trying to do, basically our entire lecture is divided into 12 weeks, and if you see this course curriculum, we will be basically trying to cover different aspects. This week 1, this particularly week, we will be talking about introductory remarks and some of the glossaries, how to choose a target, how to think about a target. At the end, we will be talking about some quizzes. It is a rapid fire round, where you can see that some of the structures, how they can be efficiently made. And then if you see the syllabus from week 2 onwards, we will talk about deep detail of organic retrosynthetic analysis. The textbook, couple of textbook might be useful for you. This one, Logic of Chemical Synthesis, has been written by Professor E. J. Corey. If you can buy this book is fine, otherwise you have to rely on this lecture material. There are books named Organic Synthesis, Strategy and Control, number 2 books by Paul Ward and Stuart Warren. This is a very good book. Number 3, Modern Organic Synthesis, is written by George Zweifel and co-workers. This is a very good book. Number 4, this number 4 book is Carothers book, which is also very important. And eventually, throughout our entire discussion, we will try to have a problem solving approach. We will take some target molecules, which you do a disconnection, and then you try to find it out that how this basic understanding will help you to design a pathway. The problems have been taken from different exams, and so basically I will try to give emphasis that whether after studying this course you will perform well in those particular exams, and that is our main idea. Now, initially, once a target molecule is given to you, I have given a target molecule, it is a huge big molecule. The initial point, once you see the target molecule, I said just have a look, just have a focused look, and initially you need to ask 3 questions to yourself, that how can I synthesize my target molecule efficiently. That was the initial question you need to ask. How do I know I have designed a devised a viable route? Now, you might be a beginner in this field. So, once you design a pathway, you consult to your teacher, you consult a expert who is known to this field for many days, and then you show his pathway, show your pathway, that sir, I have devised a pathway, will you check it? And then you have to execute it. Organic synthesis is basically a practical field. Once you design a pathway, you have to practice it in the lab. So, you have to put the reactions, you have to get the product, you have to identify it, you have to characterize it, and then finally, once you come to the target, you have to check its analytical data, which should be matching with the original one, then your final goal is achieved. So, eventually throughout this pathway, now a tentative designing strategically pathway I have tried to provide here, that once the target molecule is given to you, what should be the ideal approach? I said a target molecule at the extreme top. So, first you see the target molecule by your open eyes, and I always try to focus it out that you start communicating with the molecule. It is not by just one to one talk, you say visual dialogue. Just by seeing the molecule, if it is possible, you start a visual dialogue. Okay, this is the functional group which I can make a disconnection by a Wittig reaction, by a Swan reaction. So, that is they call visual dialogues. You see the molecule, closely analyze first, then you see the connectivity, functional group, stereochemical contents, all these points will be coming. Then you choose what strategic bond making is needed. So, that is why it is called visual communication, it is very important point. You see a molecule, start a visual communication, and visual communication basically is a reflexive action. It is like a reflex action. You see the molecule, straight away you said okay, this is the molecule I want to make, and let us say I have given you a molecule, a target molecule. Okay. Now, what your visual instinct says? Okay, I can do this molecule by a Wittig reaction, that is fine, you can do it. So, what are the intermediates you need to do? You just need to do a break. This is called a retrosynthetic disconnection or breaking the bonds. So, you put a aldehyde here and do a Wittig reaction with a suitably substituted Wittig ylide. So, this is your starting material, this is your starting material which may be commercially available, and you are doing Wittig transformation. Now, these things it is your visual communication. As I said, you see the molecule first and then you start a visual communicating. It is a reflexive action, and then you need to figure it out what are the key transformations. What are the key transformations? The term is called FGI. FGI we will be abbreviating it later on, is called functional group interconversion. Functional group interconversion. Sometimes you need to analyze the through a logical way. Once your visual part is done, then you go back to deep into the logic. What are the chemical logic? That is why it is called visual as well as relational. Means try to find the relation, that which bonds can be made by which transformations, and then you try to correlate what are the suitable precursors available to you, what are the commercial starting materials available to you. So, once you have chalked out the whole thing, then you do a logistic analysis of the entire pathway. You do a logistic analysis of the entire pathway, and then you design a suitable blueprint in a piece of paper or a computer, and then you try to analyze the whole pathway in the forward pathway, which is called forward pathway, because you have to make sure your design pathway works in the lab, because organic chemistry is nothing, is a practical chemistry. Okay. So, you have to execute it in the lab, and once you achieve the target molecule, probably you can enjoy it with a bottle of champagne, with a bottle of wine, because this is the most rewarding experience in your, probably if you choose synthetic organic chemistry as your career, but this could be one of the rewarding experience once you achieve the target molecule. The target has been achieved by your design pathway and you can enjoy it. So, these things we will be trying to figure it out in our next things. So, once you see a target molecule, as I say, you have to basically look into 6 different points. You have to basically look into 6 different points. What are those points? I have been classified those points here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At the very beginning, we will always look for a, as I said, molecular complexity. Now, go back to its slide where you can find it, that what exactly is it. So, the first point, once the target is given to you, you see its molecular complexity, that how complex a molecule can be. But definitely do not worry, throughout our discussion we will talk about the molecule which is not that complex. These molecules are really complex. We will talk about a very simple molecule which you can essentially do it by your acquiring knowledge. This particular molecule is very important, azadirachtin. This molecule is basically nothing, it have been isolated from our own Indian neem tree. Now, you all of us know that neem tree has having a potentially medicinally significance. It can cause, it can give you a enormous product, it can help you in many ways. Now, this compound azadirachtin is a complex structure, but essentially this kind of molecules can be made. So, fine. Then you check the second point, element of functional group content, that what are the functional groups present in your target molecule. Now, see the molecule rapamycin, you see there are a couple of hydroxy group, one is secondary hydroxy group here. So, there are a couple of secondary hydroxy group here in the rapamycin, you have a secondary hydroxy group, you have a secondary hydroxy group, you have a quaternary hydroxy group here, you have amide, you have ketone, you have ester. So, these are the functional group. You have olefins, certain olefins, you have a tris olefins, triple unsaturation, all are E, E olefins, E olefins, E olefins. Palitroxyl or Taxol, the very potent anti-tumor compound. If you see structural complexity and functional group content, you see this molecule is richly functionalized, same like monicin. So, eventually you have to go for this functional group content of a given molecule. Next point, when you see a target, often the target molecules are very complex, and then basically we will try to focus it out, particularly one point which is cyclic connectivity, the how different rings are present in a given molecule. Now, this particular terminology topology we have not used in synthetic organic chemistry. Topology was the terminology often used in the mathematics of geometry, but in synthetic organic chemistry topology means how the molecule is cyclically or how its cyclic connectivity. Let us emphasize little bit more on topology. Topology basically says that how this molecule or cyclic groups are connected. Now, this is a very unique topology. This topology is basically give you a bridge structure, a bridge structure, a bridge structure, a bridged unit. Okay. This is a unique topology, two cyclohexane ring linearly fused. You can have some extra topology, two cyclohexane with a linearly fused, angularly fused cyclopentane. There are topologies which is very useful, two cyclopentanes linearly fused, then you can have a angularly fused cyclopentane. These are called triquinanes. Those are basically naturally occurring products. You can have a pretty interesting topologies. Let us say we will talk about topology which is very interesting. You can have a topology which is something like this, 5 member, 5 member, 5 member, but they have a same axis. This is called propylene based compound. Propylene basically is a propeller based on propylene. They have a common axis, this axis is common. It is again a triquinane, 3 cyclopentane ring fused in a through a common axis, common bond. So, these are the terminologies which will be often used. You see that cyclic connectivity particularly for this molecule longifolin, see longifolin, it is having a bridge structure here, and then you are having a from the bridge structure you have a cycloheptane ring. So, it is very unique cyclic connectivity. There are many interesting molecules. This one, as I said in my just now we have talked about, is named as modifine. Modifine is a propylene based compound. It is having a common axis here and 3 cyclopentane ring is attached here. So, these are the points you are basically want to have a look. Next point is 4, we call stereochemical content or stereochemical density. Basically, all the complex natural products we often deal with stereocenters, means you have to make a single stereoisomers out of n number of possible compounds. Now, definitely the more complex the molecule, the number of stereocenters will be more, and that causes significant challenge. You see this molecule rifamycin, you will see this particular point rifamycin is having stereooctet. Now, what are stereooctet? Octet means 8 stereocenters together. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is octet. If you have 2 stereocenters, it is called dyad. If you have 3 stereocenter, it is called triad. 3 means 3 stereocenters. Now, sometimes we use some terminologies which is called that contiguous. Contiguous means continuous stereocenter. Let us say you are having a chain of something like this and you put stereocenters something like CHO, NH2, putting a OH, putting a methyl. Now, these are basically continuous stereocenters which are termed as contiguous, and here how many stereocenters? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, you can basically call this molecule as a stereoquadrat or quadrat. So, 4 stereocenters are there. If it is 2, you can call diad, 3 triad, 4 quadrat, 5 pentat, something like that, 6 hexad, 7 heptad, 8 octad. So, stereochemical content is the next point, which is just now we talked about. So, this is the eventually next point we will be seeing centers of high chemical reactivity. This is very important. Sometimes the target molecule might contain a group which is pretty much chemically reactive. Let us say for this case, this groups is highly electrophilic in nature. It can accept couple of Michael acceptors here, it is highly reactive, and make sure if your target molecule does have a highly chemical reactive group, you need to introduce those groups in a latter part of synthesis, because if you continue the synthesis by using these groups, in between if you can use some nucleophilic condition, these groups will not be stable, it can undergo reaction. So, make sure this kind of high chemical reactivity group should be introduced at the late stage of the synthesis, which is basically written here. So, you can take it as a guideline. The sixth point we said kinetic instability. Many of the target molecules sometimes are not very much kinetically stable with the reaction conditions. Say for example, if you have a natural product which is called thromboxane, thromboxane having a oxytane group, 4 member oxygen containing group, as well as is having a extra oxygen, which is nothing basically a acetal or ketal. Now, you put little bit neutral condition pH 7, this compound instantaneously decomposed or opens up the acetal ring, T half is only 32 seconds. So, means that the strained acetal group should be introduced in the late stage in the synthesis. You cannot continue this part as a starting material, then you can make this bond, because this is very unstable. Same thing can applicable for this part also, this prostaglandin. So, those are the finer points which you always need to take care of. As I said, we will try to give you little bit classification. The organosynthesis is based on several ways. The first one is linear synthesis. Linear synthesis, probably we will stop it here for today's discussion. Linear synthesis means that you start with the reagent or starting material A, you keep on doing linear steps. So, 5 steps we said here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that gives you target molecule. Now, if each step is 90% yield, so you are having 0.9 into 0.9 into 0.9 into 0.9 into 0.9, that basically counts 59% overall yield. So, linear synthetic steps are often regarded as a little bit disadvantageous, because you are not having any branching and the effective yields at the end will be reduced. On the contrary, if you having a different pathway, as I said, let us say for convergent pathway, where 2 linear paths can be merged in a certain points. Let us say start with C, you go 2 linear paths to D, you come to E is another starting material, come to F. Now, these 2 branching, these 2 linear paths now merge. So, your effective overall yield is now increased, because 0.9 into 0.9, 0.81, then 0.9 is 0.72. So, yield is now 73%, because you are now having quite a different ball game. So, always is advisable that you follow a branching pathway or convergent pathway. So, branching pathway is always advised. Sometimes you have a triply convergent, means there are many branching pathways. If the molecules are complex, you can have branching pathways. So, linear pathway always try to avoid, but for simple molecule linear pathway is always okay. Linear pathway is always okay, and probably in our discussion we will more of talking about linear molecules. Divergent is another terminology. It means that if you having a intermediate something like this, where from you can synthesize different target molecules. Say for this instances, this molecule can lead you this target, this target, this target. So, starting from a simple target molecule or simple starting material, you can get target 1, target 2 or target 3. So, this will be target basically target 2 and target 3. So, these things you need to take care, and this is basically a divergent pathway or triply divergent pathway. This divergence sometimes give you a very nice demonstration. Other things we will try to cover in this section. As I said, this terminology is already known to you. It is called total synthesis. Somehow we have to make the molecule, that is the final goal. Partial synthesis sometimes we use, which means that you start with a known starting material which is available to you. This material you are not making, then use some normal transformations and get this final target molecule. This is called partial synthesis. So, we will try to close down in this particular section, and finally, we will talk about two terminologies which is named as formal total synthesis versus total synthesis. Formal means some steps are known. So, you have arrived up to this point, you have arrived up to this point. So, you have arrived up to particularly certain point by some synthetic steps. From this point, the remaining steps are known, these steps are basically known to you. So, this is called formal total synthesis. Sometimes this is very important, and sometimes it happened that you are trying to do a biomimetic synthesis, which is nothing but how in the nature natural products have been synthesized, our mother nature, how it made complex molecules, that is called biomimetic synthesis. So, probably we will catch you in the next week, and thanks for being with us. So, stay tuned, we will be coming to next week.